Sweet children of Earth, our beautiful star brothers, we sense that is the only title needed right now for the ones present, but we are so happy for you that you have reached out and given light and life to this co-creation that is about to take place. We bless each and every one of you and all of you collectively. There is much energy, trouble, and turmoil taking place, of course, in the collective reality, but also on the individual reality. We sense that many of you are in places where, as one of you mentioned before, the ego has started to kick in. This may be surprising to you because all of you are on the path, all of you are in places where you have already contacted yourself, you have already gone through crises, you have already tried to construct your life in ways where you could find meaning connecting to your true self in an uncompromising way, where you gave yourself to the things you were interested in and the things that were calling you. And now you are finding that these old patterns are still playing out. They seem in many ways stronger than ever, because they are more conscious than ever. That is what is happening to you. The bubbling of consciousness is taking place on many different levels, but even on the levels of those of you who are spiritually inclined, it is hard for you to find the place where you can ground or find your footing or feel at home right now. And it is because home is as far away now as it has ever been. You have gone so far from the Garden of Eden that was your existence in nature, from which you were created and shaped, and you have still not reached this place where you have understood yourself fully and then created a world where you can live in that understanding, loving each other. But notice that from here, from the coming solstice in this month, you will experience that the light that fades will not fade from your hearts. Instead, it will happen so that each will, in their individual experience in different ways, still experience the degree of light increasing. And that means for some of you also discomfort, because there are bodily habits and patterns playing out that you need to discard because you feel almost repulsed by these patterns in your life that you seem to can't control. But at the same time, you feel the brightness radiating. You feel it coming alive in you, and you feel these maybe tentative ideas, maybe things you can almost reach out and touch, people, occurrences, happenstances that are pointing you in directions and that seem to provide a sort of light tingling in your stomach and a smile on your face. And these things will become more visible to you too. And when they become more visible to them, pay attention, follow them, find them, and then experience how your life will change in that direction. It will be an organic process. You won't experience from one day to the next that you will be another person. But in a year from now, you will see yourself radically different than you did at this present moment. And your circumstances in physical life will be very altered. That goes for all of you present. We love you, and we tell you, you have our support in your endeavors, and you have our understanding and guidance whenever you request it. Now this day, we are of the understanding that you have questions for us, and we believe that Hogne will manage that practical side of it as we are coming through this medium with blocked eyes in order to energetically communicate with you. So please, if you would be able, put forward any questions and we are more than happy to answer them for you. And we find that each and every one of you will undergo an energetic activation and notice the tingling behind your eyelids and in your soft tissue that awakens the life within you as this interaction takes place. Blessed are you, sweet humans. Questions for us are welcome.
Hi, everyone. A quick introduction to how things will work today. So I will start with Sailesh, and I will unmute those who have questions. And if you don't want to ask them on video or audio, you can send me a message and I'll ask. So for now, I'll start with Sailesh. So if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself and you can just go ahead.
Yes, hello. Good
Yes.
evening.
Hello. Good evening.
Who am I conversing with at this present moment?
My name is Ismun of the Inandi. I am of the race you know as the Lyrans. I hail from a planet that circles that. Yes, we have described it before. It is one of the stars in the Lyran constellation. We believe it is the third from the bottom left to the right, if we are recalling the constellation right in the channel we are coming through. My race is a feline race, as you may understand it. We are, of course, in some extent different from your cats, but we follow this universal pattern. And notice that the pattern of the cat on your planet is very universal because it is a very, very effective pattern to organize matter into. However, we have undergone many processes that you are already struggling with in our ascension, and we have been very involved in your progress on this planet.
Okay, so you seem to have undergone the changes that we are going through at this present moment, correct?
Yes, correct.
I've heard from other channels and other beings that at this present moment, the changes we're going through seems to be very unique, not in our galaxy only, but also the whole universe. And it's something that has never occurred before. Are you able to elaborate on that?
Yes, we are most certainly. You see, you can approach it in a way, in a pattern, or in the saying you also have on your planet that history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. So the process that is playing out on this planet is a continuation of processes that have gone before in the galaxy and in the cosmos in its entirety, but for the races that are most connected to your own development, such as us, such as the Arcturians, such as the Pleiadians, such as, from our perspective, in many ways, unfortunately, also the reptilians, but many of these energies or beings that have been able to transform from matter to energy and then from energy interacting again with matter as they do, also in a way sustaining themselves on thought patterns. They have invested certain types of conflicts in this race. And that means in your DNA structure of every individual, there is a type of chaotic sequence of unpredictable creativity playing out. You understand this as mutation, but it is also a continuation of different patterns that have been invested from different sources of alien energy into your energy fields. And therefore, a lot of what is going on planet Earth is condensations, combinations, developments of some of these conflicts. For instance, on our planet, we had a lot of wars, but you may think of them more as civil wars. We never had this extreme tribalization, and we never had it along racist lines. Sure, people also looked different in our race on different continents, but we never had that divide of, let us say, visual appearance play out, for instance. And the visual code of the humans is very interesting from the intergalactic point of view, because you tend to think of vision as sublime reality, but human vision is very different from the type of vision of civilized races that have gone before it. And that is why that this type of let us say, new approach to the light is playing out in unpredictable ways, but also in ways that are very meaningful. Does this answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll let someone else ask questions, and I'll come back to you later.
Yes, thank you.
Martin, do you have any questions today?
Yes, we are sensing, is this individual a bit distracted?
That could be.
We send him at least our love and light.
All right. Katie, do you or the cats have any questions today?
Actually, I don't really have very much questions. I'm just a first time tuning in and hearing you channel. Who am I speaking with again? I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
You can refer to me as Eastman.
Eastman.
Yes.
Very nice to have your acquaintance.
Very nice to meet you too, Katie. We are happy that you have tuned in for this interaction. Do you have a question for us this day?
Yes, I will ask you a question. My name is Kathy, by the way.
Kathy, yes.
Not Katie, but that's okay.
Oh, yes, even better, it has the cat in it.
Yes, and
Yes.
I have one of my cats on my lap. You can hear her purring. As soon as she heard your energy, she came running into the room. So could you comment or give any information on the situation with the forced vaccines that's going on right now with the planet? Do you have any information that would guide us one way or another on where that is going?
Yes, we would tell you not to be afraid. This is a type of, we wouldn't necessarily call it propaganda, but notice, as we were describing, that what happens is that the collective ego of the planet, the need to have control of the planet, is running amok, exactly because the times are proving that those times are over, that it is impossible for someone to have control. And notice that even though mass lockdowns have been imposed, it has become very clear that this situation was not sustainable and that a lot of anger was building up in the system. So this type of vaccine, we sense that it has been proposed, and we sense that some people, of course, as you know, seek security in the arm of authority, and they believe that having some type of vaccine that will help them a great deal. But a much better way to focus on it for you is, do not fear the vaccine as an option should you come in a situation where you come in contact with it. It is not meant to harm you, but it is created from a place that seeks to simply roll back what is actually happening with the virus, because the virus was more a spiritual messenger than it was an actual threat to human life. It has served its purpose in releasing all these energies. And for those of you who are establishing contact to yourself, and we hear the strong purring of the cat, which is a very strong, comforting energy. It is creating with that purring an energy field that is healing both itself, but also healing you. And you are healing it with your snuggles and your good intentions. And that is a good place to turn your attention. It is to turn those good intentions and love that you, for instance, feel for your pets inward. And then you will find yourself in situations where the vaccine won't be personally needed for you.
Yes, I wasn't so concerned about myself personally, but others who are actually afraid of the propaganda and that are watching the news. It's nice to give them reassurance sometimes when they're not awakened yet.
Yes, exactly. And we know there are different type of information streams. So of course, you could say that the news you could also construe as you just talking to your neighbor, telling you and them telling you something that you don't know. But of course, what we connect with it is that stream of mass information that is created from a place of unconsciousness, and that is where the sense of fear is accumulating. But also notice that these, as they become more and more hysteric and unrealistic, these portrayals of reality, more and more people feel naturally out of sync with it. And that will lead them also to turn their attention outwards. And we know, for instance, we can sense that you are from the United States, and we know that that is a place which has, of course, been the center for a lot of global energy for quite a long time. But now it is a sense where that frustration people have felt about being boxed in by the messages and information they were giving, their spontaneous reaction is anger and letting that out in different ways. And it can seem very dramatic,
Yes.
but it's also very good as a type of collective purging.
Yes. Well, I'm close. I'm in Canada, not in the United States. So it's not quite so angry where we're at. We're a little bit more of a peaceful country. We don't have the riots and the protests, but we are in close proximity. So we are affected by what the United States does globally, of course. But yeah, I do agree that that is definitely some energies that needed to come out, and they are serving a good purpose. So thank you.
And thank you too. And we are glad to know it is interesting because, of course, even though the North American continent is huge, it shares a lot of energy. But there is a certain temperament in the wilderness of the, let us say, the untamed landscape of Canada.
Yeah.
Lets it feed into its citizens in another way. And it is interesting because there is so much collective guilt and heaviness in the United States as a collective consciousness, which there isn't in Canada. And you will find
Right.
yourself, as a nation, you will find yourself becoming more and more of a, let us say, a beacon of calm, a quiet center of truth, a haven of quietude as things boil over down south for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. I see that happening.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was very nice speaking with you.
It was a pleasure for us too. Blessed are you. Thank you.
Namaste.
Yes.
Kate, do you have any questions today?
No, I'm sorry I didn't have any ready. I don't mind just listening, and if just listening to the beautiful information and insights that we might go forward with all this while everything is boiling up down in the States. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for participating and tuning in, and know that your loving energy is also feeding into this transaction, even though you have no specific questions. That is not required, but we will tell you that the animal we hear chirping in the background is very fond of you, particularly this day, because you have found it in yourself to take it a little more easy, and that is a good thing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Xenia, sorry about your name. I'm not super good on the names today. Do you have any questions?
I'm sorry, maybe I can't speak right now. Sorry.
No, that is perfectly all right. You are also very blessed, and we appreciate very much that you are reaching out to this interaction. Realize that even though things are troubling for you, what is going on is also that you are seeing your guides return, but they are returning to you in the external world because you haven't necessarily allowed yourself to go into that place of trust where you trust how they communicate and reach out to you through spirit or through your, let us say, your inner experience. And that is why you will experience that they will be reaching out to you in your external world, for instance. And we have a blessing here for you. She says that your mother was a wise woman and her wisdom still lives on in you, and you will discover how this wisdom, which to you sometimes has seemed unfair, actually has served yourself in your own life. And that will be a source for you to rediscover your, let us say, sorcerer-like energy or your magical inner core. And we bless you with that message too. And all of you, we most certainly bless in this interaction. Now, is there more questions we can answer for any of you?
Yes.
Jan, do you have any questions?
Yes, hello. It's Salish again.
Yes, hello.
Hi. Okay. I'm interested to know if there are any counterparts of mine in your Lyran system.
Yes, there's a counterpart, and he's called Uklak. Like Uklan is the name he's giving us. He is larger than I am physically, but he is a male, so that's also common in our own cycles of incarnation. But yes, and this figure is he has been quite instrumental in, we are saying, the discovery of aviation. In your spirit life, this incarnation very much represents your wish and need to take flight. So that is a perspective you can connect to him through. But we can answer you more questions on him.
Yes. So what would be his advice for if I wanted to connect with him? Well, I would like to connect with him.
Yes, we would say find a quiet. Find a quiet space and make sure you are quite warm and comfortable, and then start rubbing your arms, and your thighs are usually, because these are so large surfaces of skin, you can also rub your belly. This will be a good way to start connecting to that energy, and then feel yourself as a warm and fuzzy being, and then try to call him forward. And you can do this by focusing, while then with this feeling, focusing of the fuzzy energy, you bring your attention to the area beneath your lip and above your chin, so that slight indenture down there. And from there you can say, Uklan, I wish to talk to you. And then listen within, and he will bring a message through for you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. And he blesses you this day too. And he tells you that what you are going through is very, very natural. In his own life, he had experiences where he felt he had to struggle more with the physical dimensions and the elements. But there is in your life a different tendency to be better at actually, let us say, be quicksilverish or mercurial, to adjust yourself to different situations. And that is something that you are mastering more and more in this life, compared to previous incarnations you have had in different systems.
Thank you indeed.
Thank you.
Hello, it's Jan.
Yes, hello.
Yes, I don't have some specific question, but if there is something that would like resonate with me or something that would be good to hear.
Yes, we first of all bless you for having sought this this out. We think you should know that you are a good person. It's important for you to remember that you are essentially a good person, because we sense in your energetic field that there is a cloud where you have been told unfairly often that you were selfish, or that you should keep to yourself and your opinions to yourself. And you should know that when you reach out, you're actually doing a whole lot of good for people. And in your daily life, you are doing a whole lot of good for people, but that is not usually where you direct your attention. So you would very much, you are very, very loved. And we don't say by us, you are very much loved by your staff family and your spirit guides, but you are also very loved by a lot of people who don't necessarily express it that obviously, but would miss you terribly if you are gone. So rest in the fact that you are very much a person that is bettering the world around you in the way you go about your life.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else that has any questions? Feel
I can
free.
ask a question now. Thank you.
Go ahead, Kate.
Thank you. I was just wondering, how much of our Lyran self, our Lyran aspects of ourself, is being played out in the here and now that we brought with us, and I guess what I'm trying to say. We first took on human form on Lyra, and when we came to this universe, and I'm wondering how much of our Lyran self, our Lyran aspect, is controlling or dominating or affecting the world ourselves today. I know this isn't making sense.
Yes, this is a very good question. There was, before the human race was created, and this was created with different influences from different dimensional aspects. So a lot of what you may think of as evolution was also guided, but at different stages infused with different types of manipulation, loving manipulation, but manipulation. And many of these blueprints had already been worked out in experiments, for instance, in our system. And for you, it is quite, it depends on the person, we would say. In your case, we could give the percentage of 7.5% as a steady base, and then in some areas of your life, a lot of these patterns have influenced your life, perhaps almost up to 40%. And we know this is very difficult to comprehend in human terms, because a lot of this is things that are being bent from higher dimensions down into language that has arisen from lower dimensional consciousness. And that is why this translation into human language can often seem that it establishes sort of black and white parameters that don't necessarily exist, because it also depends on partly your genetics, but partly what part of your genetics you activate by your conscious attention, and the patterns you activate by the way you live your life. But for most of you who are present here, it is a quite high percentage compared to others. That is to say, people who are spiritually inclined, who connect to animal energies, people who seem to have a sort of both alienation towards this world, but also a type of warrior drive, or a will to survive, or a will to create. These people, they play out quite a lot of Lyran energy, at least 10%. And we are happy to provide more details, but does your answer, our answer, in any way satisfy your question?
Well, yes, but if you'd like to explain some more to us, that would be wonderful for information purposes.
Yes. See, what happened was that the human race was some, say, 1.2 million years ago, the first manifestations of change within your race took place. And these were fed into the planet at a time where it had already recuperated from the existence of other high civilizations or technologically advanced civilizations on this planet. You can think of it as there is a frequency band, and Earth occupies a far broader frequency than humans are able to perceive. So there are different, you could almost think of it as parallel Earths, but they exist simultaneously, actually in the same parameters of time and space, but simply as a kind of perspective from where you can't see them. And from that perspective, there are the Sasquatch, for instance, is a race that overlaps, but has made its ascension progress and has re-emerged into nature and is able to phase in and out of sight or of human perception, although they usually only choose to do so with select individuals who are ready to receive their wisdom, or otherwise to simply toy or play with the human collective because they are observing you. There's also another type of consciousness in the human center or in the planet's center. Some of you can think of them as the mole people. They are usually also immaterial, but they are able to manifest and do so sometimes in this parameter. But usually you don't perceive them. This is the same with the alien visitations. Aliens are usually here all the time, or you could call them extraterrestrials or ascended beings. Of course, this doesn't mean that like horse-type creatures from another planet will come here, because they're unable to do that trick of shifting in and out of vibrational frequency by adjusting it. But that is what happened, was that some of the vibrational frequency from this higher dimensional perspective of already ascended races was transferred onto some of the higher primates on your planet. And this started tinkering with the genetic code, but it had to be slow. It simply has to be slow in this condensation. And that is why it took so long to master fire and to come to a point where you were even able to create language. However, there were a lot of civilizations, for instance, your Atlantis and the Lemurian civilization, and even a previous civilization than that we will call the Cleon civilization, that we are informing the channel about for the first time now. But it is, there were different parts where the human experiment carried itself up to a level of technology and then receded back into different types of Stone Age behavior, which was not necessarily Stone Age, but was from a march into matter, then a march back to nature and into spirit. And notice that as you are discovering, for instance, on the Australian subcontinent, there were very advanced types of sustainable agriculture that didn't look like agriculture to the first Europeans, but were actually sustainable systems where people had built a cyclical relationship to the land, where they could wander about or walk about, as they say, and then find the resources they needed to sustain themselves. And that is, for instance, in a different way, what you are seeing now is that the process has condensed so much, and you are connecting so much with these higher vibrational energies, that technology and nature and your historical process and the spiritual endpoint from where you seem to realize yourself, all these things are coming together, and you are creating a new world. And we are just within the event horizon where it's almost impossible to see. But that is why a lot of these energies are becoming active in you. And you will feel in particular, we sense, but all of you who partake in this interaction are undergoing very rapid energy activations. And that is also why a lot of you are having quite strange dreams these days, dreams that seem to be more of a energetic nature or something that is molding you, where you don't necessarily recall any type of drama playing out from your life, but you wake up in a very, very almost transmigrated or transformed state, where you have become a higher vibrational part of yourself.
Wow. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for an insightful question.
Sailesh, your turn again.
Thank you very much indeed. Hello again.
Hello again, pleasure.
Yes, I'm loving your energy. It's beautiful. I really am enjoying it. For me, question: what density or dimension do you exist in at this present moment?
We exist in the 7th dimension, that is to say, the highest of the physical dimensions. Within this dimension, we are still able to shift into condensations. So that is why, as you will experience in some time in this coming decade, we sense in the most likely of timelines that actual ships will begin to land in select places, and that will lead the way to further complete contact. But we will be able to interact with you in this form, because we are one of those races who still choose to exist in 7th dimensional reality. But we are able to sustain ourselves simply from starlight, for instance, and we are able to materialize from one place to another using the force of our mind after we completed our ascension from the 6th dimension.
Brilliant. Okay. Question for you and your race.
Yes.
If you are presently existing and living on Earth at this present moment in time, how would you go about it? What tools would you use to navigate what we are navigating at this present moment?
Oh, what a bright and insightful question. We would encourage you all to build, and that is to say, try to find creative outlets. So when you feel frustrated, or when you're running up against the wall, or when you feel confronted, say, for instance, with a stream of news that seem to be bombarding you with unfortunate information, look around in both your immediate reality and also your immediate future, and say, how can I build something here? And that may be simply reaching out to someone you know and letting them know that where you're at, and that it's perfectly acceptable and that they are loved where they're at. But it can also be your need to redecorate something, and it could be your need to clean up something. It can be the need to change your habits on different levels. It can be the need to grow some plants in your windowsill. And these are simply examples you can take in your immediate reality that will manifest in the way you turn your attention outwards. And the calling is different for each and every one of you. But we sense that, for instance, you would be quite happy with a type of organization of some sort. And this may be an organization we sense of perhaps visual compartments or components, but some way in focusing in a way that you can connect both to the vision you have within of how you would like the world to be, and then applying that to the world, translating that into the world, and see how it multiplies and benefits the many causes that are unfolding. And then, of course, if you feel too much confronted by heavy energy, then find it within yourself. What is the place where mirroring this heavy energy? What is taking place on a catastrophe level on the planet? that I feel I am somehow a part of, because as a human, you are a survivor of a long trauma of the loss of sense of self, sense of true self. And as you are rediscovering that, of course, as we also stated at the beginning, you will find that these patterns of hurt that are playing out in the collective are repeated on your individual level on different levels and intensities. We are happy to elaborate should you have more questions on this matter.
Yes, please. Is this similar to what when you were talking about visualizing and seeing the world, and in a sense switching over to parallel timelines? Am I making sense?
Yes, you are making sense, because that is what we are outlining for you in that sense. It is that you, by turning your vision both literally and metaphorically towards brighter realities and realities that you seem to be able to affect also on a concrete level, then you are shifting to a more positive timeline. And every one of you, we can comfort you listening to this, have already undergone the dramatic timeline shift. There was a very dramatic timeline shift around the solstice in March, where sort of the very negative technological realms that, for instance, the grays come from, was shifted out. And now your dilemma is more collectively on what bright future do we want, what level of brightness do we want, how much suffering do we need to go through. But all of you listening here are in a place where you will feel your life turn into something better, more constructive in the way you perceive yourself and the way you perceive your ability to express yourself and the calling to express yourself.
Okay, yes, thank you. Thank you. Makes a lot of sense.
Ah, perfect. We are so happy.
I'll come back with more questions. I'll give someone else a chance.
Yes, excellent. Bless.
Thank
you. I received a question on message,
yes.
So I'll read it out.
Yes.
There's been so many predictions of when landings of our friends out there will happen. Is it a personal choice of being fearful towards other subjects than alien contact that keeps one in the reality where it keeps getting delayed and delayed?
This is a very good question. In a sense, yes. It is, because it is the fear in your life that keeps you waiting. But notice the delay is different in different perspectives. Other channel materials in some of your arcane texts, we can mention, for instance, the Bible or the Quran, have been promising people that the world will end soon in some time. But it's because time is not real from these perspectives. And what they are pointing to is more a type of symbolic code that works to change the energies within you. And so this molding has been taking place for a long time, mostly also before, but mostly since after the time of your Second World War. We have partly been molding the human psyche to be able to receive first contact. And from our perspective, a lot of races have been active in this, and a race such as, for instance, the Theta Reticuli, so the Greys, have taken quite dramatic measures and have in many instances already landed their ships, which we would say didn't necessarily turn out too well from our perspective, because it caused a lot of fear and paranoia. The channel we are coming through, for instance, grew up in the 90s, where this type of alien paranoia in the shape of a movie such as Independence Day or Mars Attacks or X-Files, or we believe we could go on, it was quite common to fear the aliens at this time as something that was invasive. And so this molding for us hasn't taken that very long. And do not fear your fear, we would say, because your fear is surfacing because it wants to teach you and tell you something and protect you from something. And it is true that when you allow yourself to feel this fear and you allow yourself to receive and these higher energies that are trying to connect to you and that you are connecting to in this co-creation, the chance of you connecting more and more to the astral realms, the chance of you connecting more and more to the spiritual realms, and then connecting physically to the landing, that will become more and more likely. That will be a joyful day and a joyful occasion, but realize that your life will not end on this day. It will not be as the ships will pick you up and then take you away to a different planet. That would be quite scary, actually. What would happen is instead that it will be a type of, let us say, communication from afar, where ships land and they notice that they communicate that they are there for you, and they will perhaps introduce you to some, let us say, low-level technology. We don't mean to offend you, but guide you in some direction, and then sort of step back and know that they are available for connection. But the reality of we would say we are using a lot of pop cultural images from the channel here of the bar Mos Eisley in the first Star Wars movie, where there are lots and lots of aliens living around in a different environment. That is either on very, very alternate timelines or extremely far in the future where that thing will occur. The planet Gaia is already a planet that accommodates so many physical energies that it is difficult to imagine it being home to energies from a completely different star system in physical shape for too long, where it would be pleasant for them. Does this answer your question? Oh, it was a written question. We remember
Yes.
now as we answer it. So yes,
I'll see if there's a follow-up. Just a second here.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so technology suppression. How is it so easy for advanced tech to be suppressed when we have so many global reaching channels able to spread the ways of how the technology can be made? Isn't it a collective consciousness that inspires a few inventors at the same time to develop a technology only to mobilize a counterpart?
Oh, this is a good question. Yes, but you are touching upon the nature of ideas in this question, because notice that dissemination is not as quick as inspiration. So there are phases where an idea has to crystallize. It first has to become solid in one mind, and then in different minds around it, or at least this one mind has to find a place where it's able to express it and then bring other people aboard. And then it has to prove its purpose in the world. And the way you have structured your societies, and we don't mean to feed any paranoia, but it has been the sense of control, in many ways the false sense of control, and by that the illusion of domination that a lot of people have about human relationship to life, thinking that society and culture and human creation is all there is. That has been achieved by separating and segregating information and knowledge. And so the people who come up with the ideas are usually not the people who apply them in practice, and they are definitely not the people who disseminate them. So there are a need for a lot of forces to come together, and that is also what is happening in a lot of ways. So what you have been seeing with the internet is this type of colonization of technology, where you could almost think of it as an arms race where innovation pops up, and then someone sees the potential to sort of, we wouldn't use the term capitalize or corrupt, but we would say subject this or transform its energies into something for personal gain. And then the process of new ideas and inspiration constantly has to come in and feed itself. So what's going on an individual level, but also on the level of the collective, is that the forces of freedom and the forces of control, which are working in each and every one of us, or each and every one of you, and also did in us up until we cleared that out. But those forces, they constantly try to feed off each other. And you could think of it as the dance between chaos and order, to see it in a neutral perspective, because there is also the danger that these things would run amok. And this danger is seen from our perspective also real, though the means used to control and subdue people are wrong from our perspective. Then the instinct to sort of carefully wield the power of technology is a healthy one. And we would remind you, for instance, what has happened with your nuclear technology in the short time that you have had access to that.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
I haven't received a follow-up question for that yet, so we'll move to Xenia. If you can unmute yourself, and please share with us your names so I can say it correctly.
Yes, it's correct. Xenia is correct. Yeah, I have one small question maybe about how to overcome negativity towards people in general. If you can help with some advice on that, please.
Yes. Realize that people are not evil. People are stupid. Sometimes the things people create are evil. The organizations people partake in are evil. The ideals that people pretend to believe in or need to believe in order to give themselves a false sense of power or security, those can be evil. But in general, people are stupid. We don't mean this to offend you, because the highest, brightest instincts also shine through you. You are the light of all creation. You have the power of 1,000 suns within you. So do not fear in that sense. But when people hurt each other, they do so out of a sense of confusion, of lack, of want. And it is usually also because we don't like that feeling within ourselves that we tend to elaborate or exaggerate is the word in our minds how the intention other people have towards us. And notice that that is actually a magical power people have, that you are set in a world and then you infuse everything with intention. And once you infuse things with intention, they start to respond to you in the correspondence with the intention you set out. And this goes both for inanimate objects, it goes for concepts and ideas, it goes for deities and creatures such as us, but it also certainly goes for other people, that your intentions towards them, they will be mirrored back to you in a lot of ways. And that is not to say that you are responsible for the way you are treated or the way other people behave, but it is to say that you have the power in your life to let yourself be someone else whenever you feel like it. And that someone else is a person who doesn't have those negative relationships to those people anymore. It's a person who just saw what happened and then changed their life. And from that perspective, they can start anew, because every moment is anew and afresh. And people who are stupid and mean towards each other and then towards themselves, they don't get to have that. shift in perspective. So you could almost say there's a type of almost pleasure in knowing, or you know, the term Schadenfreude. There's a type of pleasure in knowing that once you become able to forgive yourself, you become able to shift realities that you want to, and then you can't really be touched by those negative patterns in any meaningful way. And we know this can be hard to realize from day to day, but this is a process that is awakening and cannot be turned back for you.
Thank you. Thank you for this answer.
Thank you.
Wouter? I hope I didn't butcher your name too.
No, you did very well. Hello, yeah, my name is Wouter. It's great to talk to you.
Yes, pleasure.
I was thinking, if you look at your history of your civilization, is there something that stands out that we can learn from, regarding the moment that we are in right now on this planet as a civilization that you think can be beneficial for us to take into account?
Yes, this is a very good question, and we would offer you that the advice that brutality only breeds more brutality. We had in our wars many instances where one part seemed defeated, or we believed to have somehow suppressed something from our collective, and then it flourished up again in your history, or in our history. And that happens when conflict is settled by a new order too swiftly. So we would advise every one of you to accept the chaos, and to accept more chaos than is comfortable, and then to look around in your life to organize on the micro level where the macro organizations are being stuck, and also look to appreciate the minor things, which is of course a general advice, but do not go the way of heavy nationalism again. Do not go the way of, we would say, tribalization. And we do not sense that we are necessarily treading in dangerous waters with the community gathered here. But we would say that what is interesting about the eruption of protests in America at this point, which is expressing an anger in a lot of the world, but is the expression of the anger of the systemically downtrodden for a long time. Do not get caught up in the tribalization, as this is a matter of skin color, because that is let us say, the factor that triggered it, because that is how gross human separation had become, that such an extremely superficial factor could be the factor that you could create entire orders of society around. But it is the entire order of society that is breaking down, and it is breaking down, let us say, beneath the symbol or the reality of Black slavery, because that was the epitome of human cruelty. And we also had this experiment of trying to order in social hierarchies. But what you should be turning yourself to instead is to find places where hierarchy is only pragmatic. That is to say that everyone fits into a role that they are pleased with at the moment, and that is somehow changeable. We can attempt to offer more concrete details if you have any wishes for where to go.
Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking about that topic of slavery a lot. I think human history has been, it's been very connected to the human history, even to times that most people don't realize, I think. So I think it's also hard to transcend that. I think, you know, it's deeply ingrained in the human psyche, I think. And I think, yeah, I don't know if you can speak more about how we can do that or how we can best look at that.
Yes. It is another question that exactly touches upon the deep pain of separation in your heart, because slavery again expresses separation on so many levels. It is the separation of slave from master naturally, but it is also the separation of slave from where the place that he or she was taken, and it is the separation of the children from the slaves who become the property of others. And it is the separation of what is common in all humans to instead focus on what separates us, which is social class and hierarchy. But the interesting perspective from a spiritual level is that in many ways, the slave gains their soul but loses material comfort, and the master gains material comfort but loses his or her soul. And that is, if you look at, for instance, the interesting phenomenon of Black slavery in the United States, so many of the impulses, particularly in the 20th century, has come from this community of people who have kept, we would say, almost the wailing spirit of the Jews, which alive, that sense that the world had done them an injustice, but they were in a sense spiritually elect. And that is also what was, yes, discovered in ancient Judaism and in Christianity, in that sense, that the downtrodden, in a sense, had a moral superiority. And there is a freedom in seeing the world for what it is when you are not invested in violating someone else for your own gain. So there is a perspective where you see now that the downtrodden become the masters. The narrative of, we won't say, the narrative of the vulnerable is what is coming to the forefront. And this is the language of the heart. This is the expression of the heart as it unfolds in the collective. But it will take sacrifices. It will take sacrifices for all those who have grown comfortable upon the backs of others. And it will take sacrifices for those who have been downtrodden to forgive and accept that what happened to them was also, as we explained before, more a result of human greed, stupidity, and folly, and then a result of the evil system that was created as a result from that, than it was necessarily any one evil person trying to do this to someone else.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
David, would you like to ask the question yourself, or should I just read it? Okay, I'll read it. Sorry, we can't hear you. A second. Try it. There. Go ahead.
Now, how's
Yep.
that?
All good. Go ahead.
All right. Much respect, love, and light to the Lyrans. Thank you very much for coming through. So it's a pleasure to be speaking to you. what are you guys able to do to help us neutralize the artificially imposed grid that for millennia has been keeping us in separation consciousness? It would be very nice to get a little bit of energetic help to help our collective consciousness to focus more on unity as opposed to separation. I know that quite a few of our galactic friends are sending as much energy as they can, but you have a very special energy signature. And I was wondering what you're consciously doing, if anything, and can you if you're not?
Yes. We are in the individuals who are already, who are turning themselves towards this process, such as yourself. We are helping to construct a type of light grid within your heart space. And this is also within your energetic body, so you can think of it as sitting from, yes, we would say like two inches, so like 5 centimeters outside of the chest, and then imagine it as an orb that you can, in a way, both pick up energy from, but also rearrange in patterns that are harmonizing to where you are in your vibration. And this you can then extend, so it's almost like a ball you can dribble and use to configure and then extend into your personal aura, and your personal aura will then affect the collective space of what you interact with, and this will help for you to neutralize any energies. So this is a good place to turn your attention. And that Lyran energy, that very strong feline energy, which is uncompromising, you find that by letting yourself walk proud and tall. So stretch out and extend, and notice that is again a lot of those energies that have been allowed to circulate, which are very negative and which has kept separation apart, they are already being sort of filtered out. But again, you will notice that once you, what image do we want to use? Yes, if you want to yes, if you want to empty a fish, clean a fish tank, you have to empty out the water and remove the fish and then refill the fish tank. And that's not possible in Earth. So all the turmoil you're going through is us gradually refilling the water.
Gotcha. All right. Can you give me a description, a visual description of this ball of energy to help me? Colors, textures, movement, and the way it interacts might be helpful, because I could picture infinite balls of energy. What would be particular for the Lyran energy signature?
This is also a good. This is a good question. You could well think of it more as a string of yes, as you could think of it as a string of balls, and then this is tied into. Yes, it's the shape of the pyramid. So this is the shape of the pyramid that is rotating within itself, and it's an upward pointing pyramid. And
are you speaking of a Merkaba?
Yes, we are speaking of a Merkaba, but with the Lyran quality.
Okay.
With the Lyran quality, you can envision it as having these string-like or bead-like qualities, which you can pick apart, and you can find an element, and within that element there is, let us say, a tiny gift of information, because this is the way that we also communicate higher vibrational information to species in the physical. It is by an energetic translation that is stringed together into the Merkaba, because what we are describing here is the Merkaba, but there are, and that is in many ways your highest essence, but also the light vessel in which you travel. And if you use this light vessel, we would advise yourself to do the process of shrink yourself and then go into this ball of light, this Merkaba, and then use it to travel wherever you want. And yes.
So I'm projecting by using the smaller scale. So the strings of spheres being created into an upward pointing pyramid, the actual spheres that make up the pyramid, maybe there's what, 4 or 5 from tip to tip, and then it's all filled with spheres, much like that 3-dimensional object would be. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what would those spheres look like? Would they be translucent? Would they be just energy, light, or does that really matter? It's just the structure that matters.
Well, they are quite translucent. You could think of it as if you know the reflection you get in chrome sometimes,
right,
or other some such materials. So
that's what I was thinking. Something like glass or maybe a crystal.
Yes, exactly. So it has a whitish quality, but that quality is almost translucent, but it also has that rainbow thing where it almost shifts into the purple or the indigo, and then becomes visible in the different energetic aspects that you wish to use it to align with.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, yes, we're just saying that then you can think of it as composed of different color vibrations. If you want to specify how you want to energetically load yourself at that point, you can use this whitish, translucent, radiant, luminescent figure, and you can infuse it with one of its more particular colors. So, for instance, if you then turn it into the reddish or the ruby-like color of radiation, it will be much easier for you to sort of deal with the energetic issues of your lower chakra. So, for instance, matters of appetite or hunger or some such things.
In other words, change the hue based upon what chakra you would like to focus on.
Exactly.
Are these spheres hollow, or is it a solid energy?
They are hollow. Hollow, but they are able to be filled with intention, so to speak. So they are quite transmutive within their nature. And you could think of it that yes, they have spaces in the way you would perceive them in your visual world, but they are all connected in one energetic field.
Certainly. Okay. I just wanted to get a handle on that structure for that. Okay, great. I've got that. And about how big in front of you, does that really matter? Just sort of like size of my hand, or maybe in our feet?
Oh, yes, we would say more of the size of almost the size of a basketball, maybe a soccer ball. That size is usually the sense. Yes, the size of a soccer ball, but it does, or a football for those of you tuning in from different parts of the world. But it is depends also on how you infuse it. So you can stretch it out because if you stretch the macabre out to encompass the whole galaxy, you will approach what is actually the skeleton of this entire cosmos.
Okay. And is it spinning in any direction, or with any particular rate of spin, or is it just hanging out in space in front of you?
Oh, we would say that there is this is not the channel's strongest suit verbally to describe, but we believe a centrifugal is spinning outwards and centripetal is spinning inwards. Is that true? Because you could perceive it as having an outward spinning motion in the pyramidal structure that is lifted up from below, and then a downward spinning motion or transfiguration in the way that it is spinning from above.
Right.
And this creates a sort of almost galactic spiral in the center, which is the energetic sphere that creates your reality and creates and you create reality through.
So there is 2 pyramids, one up, one down together, just like in most Merkabas, and one is spinning in one direction, one is spinning in the other. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And
okay, very good.
And you could sense that these are in the type encased in a circle that is spinning, and around that there are these triangular star-like, very complex structures that are feeding in and out of it.
I would love to see that structure at some point. Maybe you could just transmit directly to those that are open to it. I'd be open to it. But thank you. That gives me very solid clarification.
Oh, yes. And thank you for some very graphic and insightful questions. It was beautiful hearing you describe that structure.
Well, I'm looking forward to be connecting to your energy through that visualization.
Yes, and we will be there to answer you and make the visualization clearer in that space.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. Okay. I've monopolized enough of your time. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Blessings.
Blessings.
We have 2 more questions.
Yes.
Jan, would you like to ask it yourself, or should I just read it for you?
Yeah, yes. The question was like, what is the biggest issue that your collective is facing, if there is?
Yes, if our collective, we are facing the challenge of becoming non-physical. It is, we don't have conflict in the same type that we had in our earlier dimensional incarnations. So it is more of a type of enlightened discussion, but that does not mean that there are many different energies negotiating themselves to come into place for us to make the shift into the non-physical or the 8th dimensional, where we will, in a sense, from sustaining ourselves on starlight, will become this type of starlight in ourselves. So we are working on translating ourselves more and more into the non-physical. And there is a type of, yes, you could think of it as conflict within our collective, where some look with some great skepticism about on the type of magicians or star creatures that beam in and out of light existence and beam very much out of it. I am such a creature myself, and I belong to you could call it a tribe or a caste or a society called the Taklak, which yes, practice these and have practiced these practices for a long time, showing the way into the non-physical dimensions. And you could think of what we correspond to as contact specialists in other dimensions, but what we are uncovering is simply how our genetic code, or how our code can remain unique while still being integrated into a space that is defined not by difference, but instead defined by sustaining energy, creative energy that lights up other things. And my endeavor here, as I communicate with this source and transmit my energy to all of you, it is to also show to my collective siblings or family or fellows that good will come of this, that we are able to create much more positive realities by going in this direction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sailesh, you ready for your question?
Yes, hello, I am, yes. Okay. Right, it's on a personal nature. It is something that we all humans at the moment are personal growth and spiritual growth. It's just just a quick note, because I'll need to schedule a meeting with you through your website. But on a quick note, are there what guides have I got who are trying to contact me at this present moment? If you are able to assist me on just one little bit for now.
Yes, we are sensing an Arcturian energy quite present in your energy field. And this is the energy of, say, creative acceptance. It's the energy you can think of. It's actually well, he is your guide, but it's a past Arcturian life, and he's giving the name of Kniknek. Yes, it's difficult. It can be difficult to translate these Arcturian vibrations because they began to express themselves telepathically so long ago, but he is reaching you and contacting you, and he is because you are sort of experiencing a very much an expressive awakening. So what will be good for you and guide you through these times is also to express yourself, and he is there for you. And then we also sense there is yes, what is this energy? It's the energy of the ground. It's more like a frog-like energy almost, but it is it's kind of he's kind of a protector spirit, who is quite froggy. That is to say that he's able to leap from great depths and into heights and then plant himself well fed and nourished into the muck again. So he's quite a powerful jumper, and he's telling you that he's got your back, and that you also need to remember to have fun. That will be a good turn for the both of you.
Thank you very much indeed. The fantastic morsel I've just had from you. I shall be getting in touch with you in the near future.
Yes, you are most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our dear Kate asked a question. Can we do one more?
Yes, yes.
So she asked if we have Lyran guides with us at this time.
Yes, you have. All of those who turn up here have Lyran guides in your energy field. That is to say, you have existences in your past lives that have drawn you to co-create this interaction. And you could think of it, the channel experiences, and which is very visual to apply to a degree where he's very surprised by it. Almost me as a huge white cat that is giving him energetic hugs when he bring in the energy, because we have that very much of hugging, protective energy. You know, the fuzzy warmth where you don't feel overheated, but you also feel like very protected and snug, and that's very much the Lyran energy. And we are also present in the night sky with our ships, and our ships, if they are revealed to you, and then you can often recognize them by a swift blinking 1 2 3, and then a swift blinking 1 2 3 1 2 3 in appearance somewhere else on the sky, and then again 1 2 3. This is a message that we sometimes give to you, but it is also a beaming of the light code, which is, yes, quietly and softly shifting the net of control that has been put around your planet, and which allowed for a lot of negative separation processes to play out. But you could also think of this, of course, in an instance as, for instance, as a baby crib, because we are in that sense also removing the training wheels for humanity. And you know what happens when the training wheels come off is usually there's a point where you need to fall on your bike and then discover that you were able to get up and actually go on.
Anything to follow up for that, Kate? You can unmute yourself. Okay. So that was all the questions. So if you have any final concluding remarks for us today, that would be wonderful.
We bless you all, and thank you so much for many insightful questions that have allowed us to illuminate the hearts of each and every one of you that has turned up here. Notice that we have touched you energetically through these interactions, and your Lyran guides, who they may be, and the Lyran in each and every one of your lives, and the Lyran energies in general are becoming active. When you go to sleep at night, you can think of, even direct a type of prayer to your Lyran guide, and you will experience what our energy feels like more intuitively if you then feel what it feels like from your claviceps and down to your solar plexus. So this area is a place where you can receive more of our light. We offer you a prayer in our own language, which we will give you, and that will be a collective blessing for all of the positive energy that has unfolded in this interaction. Ambaran diktan doam biumban muna ambiandang gastak tiambu umban diandam wang yang. In this time, in this day, in this place, you find yourself a frame for understanding more than a narrow cell for you to sit in. You have options, and those options are lighter, brighter, and more luminous the more you turn yourself inward into this gleaming crystal that you are. Focus on that star before your heart space that is your innermost nature and which will take you to the stars. This we leave you with, and we bless you so much for a beautiful interaction. Be blessed this day and all days. So, hey everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. That was exciting. I hope you all enjoyed it, and thank you for very insightful questions. I'm all blown away right now, but you know, you can contact me through all of the usual channels, and I'll definitely do this again sometime. It was great to interact with you. Peace, blessings, and love out there.